What's up, guys? So I thought I would talk a little bit about writing a really good resume. I posted my resume workshop, my resume writing program, and I got some good feedback, but I also got one really good question. And so I'll answer that at the very end. And it's kind of like the bonus piece that I want to throw in for you guys. Just to give you a setting, in beautiful Oaxaca, Mexico. And a lot of the things I do as a physician is remote work. I do healthcare consulting remotely. I do telemedicine remotely. I sell my own courses, and obviously I do the resume writing and curriculum vitae editing. That's the kind of stuff that I do. I do some coaching with physicians, etc. Things that I'm passionate about, things that I like, things that get me excited to get out of bed. I would love to say that going into the urgent care or in primary care clinic and adjusting prescriptions is that exciting, but it's not. It's something that I enjoy. There is a bit of that scientific aspect to it, but it's something that I think I'm putting on the back burner for now to develop some other skills. And so I decided to do this resume writing workshop for physicians because even though 80% of physicians might never need the service, right? You're essentially going to work for one medical group all of your life. You're going to go straight out of residency into another program. Or maybe 1 or 2% of us have such impressive pedigree that you're really not going to need any impressive resume writing skill to get to that next job, to land that next gig. For me, the majority of the people who are coming to me, for me, the work that I do that's most impressive, that's most rewarding, is geared towards those individuals who sort of have had some negative marks on their professional record. Maybe they've had some major malpractice issues. Maybe they took a bunch of time off. Maybe they have felonies, misdemeanors. They got medical board investigations, insurance fraud issues, all sorts of stuff that you can imagine that can be on your professional record as a physician. And you might think that never again will you be employed, never again will you be able to do any kind of remunerative work as a physician. Number one, there's a lot of alternative stuff to clinical medicine. If you have an MD, if you have a DO, there's a lot of things that you can do that's not necessarily seeing patients knee to knee, face to face, or phone to phone these days, or video to video. But I think that the other aspect of it is maybe you are just on that verge of not being the right candidate because of everything that's been in your record, but maybe the right employer is willing to give you a chance. Maybe the right opportunity is right around the corner, but your resume is just not reflecting that. Your interview skills is not reflecting that. And the last piece which I wanted to mention is maybe your cover letter is not reflecting that. And we'll get to the cover letter at the end. But here we go with a sample physician like myself. I'm 43 years old. I had a major medical board investigation, which was about a very minute topic, a topic that the cause of which was ridiculous. My name is Mohammed Ashori, MD. You can look that up. It's public information. Ashori is my last name. And if you look that up and you see for what I got a 30-day license suspension, you'll see that it's probably a bit ridiculous. But at the same time, it's a 30-day license suspension. It is probably one of the worst things you can have on your medical record. You can have all sorts of stuff, but the actual suspension or termination, those are big, big things. So anyway, so we got this 43-year-old doctor, and he maybe took some time off because he couldn't find any gigs, and now he's dedicated. He wants to get back into a particular medical practice. How does he do it? Well, his resume is going to be everything, and how he presents himself to the employer is going to be absolutely critical. Why? Because if he tries to hide the fact that he had a 30-day license suspension, then it's almost something that the interviewer, the screener, let's say the resume screener, right? Because sometimes it's HR, sometimes it's another physician, and we as physicians are a little bit timid about that stuff too. When we see another physician with something negative on the record, we're like, whoa, should I even accept this guy? So they'll do the screening, and then they'll find that, oh, this guy had this on his record, but he didn't tell anybody. But when do you say it? When do you mention it? How do you mention it in your resume? That's key. That is absolutely critical. And that's one thing that you have to understand. Each one of these situations is rather unique, and it's important how you phrase it, where you phrase it. Also, a good resume is going to need a good summary section. There is a little bit of that edge you can take off in the summary section. You have your contact information, you have your past medical education, such as your medical school, your residency, maybe your fellowship, any kind of chief residency work that you did. And then you have your employment work at telemedicine companies and at a particular hospital, taking call, covering the operating room in the OR. You have teaching positions that you have had. You have research publications that you've done. You have volunteer work. Knowing how to organize that information well, that when the screener or that physician who looks at your resume, when they take a look, it's got to be perfect. They should have no doubts. Everything should fit really well from top to bottom. Okay, Mohammed Ashori, MD, this is his current experience, this is his previous experience, the dates make sense. He doesn't have 4 or 5 different gigs that he's doing at the same time where it says 2019 until present, 2020 to present. 2006 to present. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So you got 4 jobs. And that's really key, because somebody who looks at resumes all day, a chief medical officer, the president of a company, or somebody who's just hiring, is going to be kind of sensitive to that. And so it's important that you have empathy towards that, because this person's going to want all of their concerns and questions answered within the first page of your resume. Are you going to include a second page? That's a very important question. And so those are some of the things that it really matters what your condition is and what kind of position you're applying for. So in the first example I gave you, Dr. Mohammed Ashori, who's got the medical board investigation, he wants to get back into it, he wants to see patients, he wants to get a $300,000 family medicine urgent care job. Now you got an OBGYN who, let's say, they didn't have a medical board investigation. Maybe they are now interested in getting into some healthcare consulting. Maybe they want to take on a chief medical officer role at a hospital, or a president, want to become president of a hospital. And they have some connections, they know some people, but this is a job outside of their expertise. So how do you lead that? How do you start that resume? What does that resume look like? What do you include? What do you exclude? What do you write? And so in this example, the cover letter is going to be absolutely critical. You got the resume, which is great, but that cover letter suddenly becomes this big, right? Where the cover letter for the majority of the gigs should be as little as possible, as small as possible. Now, in the middle, maybe 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, is the cover letter for the resume of the physician who might have to explain some negative things on their record. And even then, I always say it's the narrative that you write, the narrative that you say. Not only does it have to match the way you interview, but it also has to match the way you wrote it and the way you come across as a physician. For example, I come across open, simple, a little bit of sense of humor. Somebody else, some of you guys might be a bit more mechanical. Hello, yes, this is what I want to do. And somebody else might be more timid, like, so I did that, and then that happened, and this and that. And so everything has to match. Your resume has to match. Your cover letter has to match. And so the cover letter is often the key for a lot of people who might have some issues with their resume. And other times we're overdoing the cover letter. We're writing things in there that just makes the reader, the screener, be like, oh, that's a little too much information. So those are some of the things that I wanted to kind of review and give you an overview about a resume. A perfect resume should be as concise as possible, with the least amount of information, but the most amount of keywords. To give you an example about a keyword that might be important, imagine I'm hiring for a medical director for a particular company, and this medical director has to be able to organize people. They have to be able to talk to different types of people. They have to be able to report to the CEO, and they have to have some leadership roles, maybe some operations management roles. That's critical, and having those keywords in there is really important. Maybe you're applying for a position at a healthcare startup and you want to do some healthcare consulting. Well, if you don't have any data science experience, if you don't have any health informatics experience, if you don't have any operations or AI data ops management experience, that's gonna hurt you. And it doesn't have to be those exact keywords, but it's gonna have to be a certain. You have to use one of the number of keywords that are out there which represent this skill well for the screener and for the person who's going to hire you. I'll tell you from my personal experience, when I've applied for a lot of different jobs. I've applied for jobs as a physician at a DMV, a coroner. I've applied for telemedicine, healthcare consulting, chief medical officer roles, clinical leads, medical director. I've applied for so many different gigs and I've gotten the majority of them. And the ones I didn't, I know kind of what happened, what I maybe didn't do so well. And the ones that I did well, I know exactly what kind of information came out, right? So somebody read my resume and they pretty much had no questions, or the answers I gave them from that experience was exactly what they expected. That is a beautiful sweet spot to be in when you have the right resume. So do spend time on your resume. Experiment with it. Every single job that you really want to land really needs its own resume. It's just the way it works these days. And the next level of that is having just a piece of paper as a resume is often not enough. You need a LinkedIn profile that reflects it. You need a website that reflects it. That's the nature of jobs today. And if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, and you're probably not applying for just your old regular job, you're applying for the kind of job that you're really passionate about and you really want to land. And in that case, it is absolutely important that everything fits, that everything is as perfect as possible. If you have more questions, you can contact me directly, drmo@digitalnomadphysician.com. You can go to my website at digitalnomadphysician.com, and you can also go on Fiverr, fiverr.com, and you can check out my physician resume writing services there. And I hope you land that job, and I hope you love what you do. Take care.